Good morning, this is Deepak again, and sorry for the previous mishaps, but I think we've got the camera right now. So this morning I wanted to share with you how both science and spirituality can lead to the same understanding as far as reality is concerned. And by reality I mean the fundamental reality, that is the source of you, me, and everything else in the universe. So first, let's start with just the scientific method. The scientific method is based on a loop of theory, which is, of course, conceived in our own mind or consciousness. And then, based on that theory, people design experiments. And based on those experiments, they make observations. So right now, the whole news media is buzzing with the idea of gravitational waves that have been confirmed by scientific observation. They prove the existence of black holes, even the collision of a black hole with another black hole, and also lend further validity to Einstein's general theory of relativity, which proposes that gravity is a curvature in space-time, and that gravity is a force, but more likely it's a distortion in space-time. And right now physicists are attempting to find a fundamental model that unifies all the forces, such as electromagnetism, strong interactions which hold the nucleus of an atom together, weak interactions which are responsible for radioactive decay, and gravity. Ultimately, if this holds true, that they are all one fundamental reality, then space-time, energy, matter, information will all have the same source. And what the nature of the source is what science is trying to figure out. So that's the scientific method. But before I proceed further, I'd like to quote from one of the greatest physicists of the century, John Wheeler. The century, as we can think of it, the last century and this century up to now. One of the greatest physicists, John Archibald Wheeler, who was one of the first people to welcome Einstein when he joined Princeton University. So here is a quote from Wheeler. I'm going to read directly from his quote. He says, "Every particle, every field of force, even the space-time continuum itself, derives its function, its meaning, its very existence entirely from the apparatus elicited answers to yes or no questions, binary choices, bits. It from bit symbolizes the idea that every item of the physical world has at bottom, at a very deep bottom in most instances, an immaterial source and explanation." Once again, that every item of the physical world has at bottom, at very deep bottom, an immaterial source and explanation. That which we call reality arises in the last analysis from the posing of yes and no questions and the registering of equipment-evoked responses. In short, that all things physical are information theoretic in origin, and that this is a participatory universe. Later, in the same interview, John Wheeler said, "We are participators in bringing into being not only the near and here, but the far away and long ago. We are, in this sense, participators in bringing about something of the universe in the distant past, and if we have one explanation for what's happening in the distant past, why should we need more? So the person who's interviewing him, Martin Redfern, said, many don't agree with John Wheeler, but if he's right, then we and presumably other conscious observers throughout the universe are the creators, or at least the minds that make the universe manifest. Okay, so of course, what John Wheeler does not address there is something that should be asked, and that is who or what is the observer that theorizes, that experiments, that sets up the equipment that reveals the answers to yes or no questions. Who is that observer? Well, that is a frame of reference from a certain location in space-time, but yet it doesn't really answer the what or who is asking these questions, which presumably is not the domain of science. But I think what we get here is something very fundamental, and that is that the universe that we observe is a human universe based on yes and no questions asked of nature. That nature doesn't reveal to us how she is, but she reveals to us the answers to the questions we ask of her. We are asking questions and we are getting certain answers based on the questions we ask. So what we see as the universe, what we observe as the universe, is ultimately a story we have participated in this case scientifically, through scientific methodology, and that story is a story that we all agree to, that actually can be validated through repeated experiments and repeated questions of the same nature. But fundamental here to realize that what we're observing is not what is, we're observing it from bit, as he says. It is the information we get from the bit, which is that which we examine, okay, that which we observe, that which we set up experiments for to answer our yes and no questions. But in the same interview, John Wheeler also says that at the most fundamental level, not only is the universe everything physical, information theoretic, but it has as at its bottom an immaterial source of explanation. An immaterial, which means non-physical, non-material, and in this case formless until the experiment is set up to measure the answer that is revealed to the questions that we ask. Okay, so bottom line, the universe has a formless source, and everything that is observed is actually observed in response to a question, the scientific method. And what we observe has information in it that leads to the perceptual experience of matter and energy. Now let's go to the methods of spirituality. And by spirituality, I'm not meaning religion or dogma or theology or philosophy, whatever the philosophy or philosophical school of thought. By spirituality, I'm simply meaning self-awareness. Can I be aware of the self that is asking these questions? So while science asks what's happening out there, or what am I observing, science has those methodologies to answer those questions. Spirituality asks, who is observing, what is observing, and what's the purpose? Why are we observing? And who's the we? Who's the I of all experience that observes? And as we examine this question, which is basically the question, who am I? The ground of all experience. Who am I? The what of all experience. I being the fundamental ground of all experience. So when we start to ask this question, we begin to realize that everything that we observe is actually an experience in the I. I am experiencing my body. I am experiencing my mind. I can observe and experience my brain on an MRI or a CAT scan. I can ask these fundamental questions of nature. And so when I start to look at this in meditation or in Vipassana, the insight that comes is that my body is an experience. And not only is an experience, it's a non-static experience. It's an intermittent experience of sensations, images, feelings, thoughts. And this experience of the body has been changing since the time I was born. The body of a baby, the body of a child, the body of a toddler, the body of a teenager, this body, and then ongoing till the moment of death. That the body is an intermittent experience of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts that has no permanent reality. It is happening in my awareness. Yeah, that's good enough. My consciousness, which I can't find through any method of observation. I can't find it through imagination. I can't find it through observation. I can't find it through any instrument. It's not anything that I can weigh or measure, and yet it is doing the measuring. Okay, so my body is a continuum of images and sensations in this awareness. But so is my mind on a much subtler form. So is my mind. Intermittent thoughts, emotions, sensations, images, but of a subtler variety. And who's asking these questions? Who's observing? An awareness that I cannot measure. An awareness that makes imagination possible. An awareness that makes thinking possible. An awareness that makes analysis possible. An awareness that helps me figure out things, and all I have to do is to be self-aware and aware of the sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts that are being generated in my awareness, occurring in my awareness, are known in my awareness, and are actually qualities of my own awareness, because they're all qualities of experience. So I must be the awareness in which all experience occurs. Okay, so where do I go from here? I recognize once again that everything I experience, that we as human beings have given a name to, has a form, and that everything that has form is a phenomenon, an intermittent phenomenon that is experienced as sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts that are happening in my own awareness. That me as an individual body-mind with my individual ego is also an experience and is not the source of the experience. Now, in the great wisdom tradition of Advaita, the Advaita that comes from Shankarcarya, frequently referred to as S-Advaita. Advaita is the Sanskrit term for non-duality. Anything that is intermittent, that actually is a blink of an eye in cosmic time, is relegated to the realm of illusion or Maya. The word Maya has etymologically a connection to the word measure, measurement, meter. Maya, also referred to as illusion because it's not permanent, and also the origins seemingly etymologically to the words music, mata, matrika, mother. So measurement is the mother or womb of creation that allows the infinite to measure itself out as the finite, as both the observer and the observed, as both the knower and the known. The known actually being a projection or a measurement of the infinite, formless, immaterial source, which through self-interaction experiences itself as the subject and object of experience. In this case, I'm including the body, mind, and ego as the object of experience, even the individual being as the experience, because the individual being is also in a process of constant transformation as the formless, immaterial source of the universe evolves in space-time as the innumerable observers, the innumerable modes of observation, and the innumerable objects of observation, all within itself. So this is ultimate non-duality, but of course all experience is in the realm of duality, where the non-dual splits into subject and object of experience. Ultimately, this duality is a complementarity that is at all levels: waves and particles, mind and brain, organism and the universe. They're all emerging as experiences from this non-dual supreme reality, the formless immaterial source that we arrive at, whether we do science or we examine our own self through various methodologies, including self-reflection, self-observation, self-awareness, deep contemplation, stillness, and silence. So we end up with the same place. Why is this important? How is this relevant to our life? It's relevant that because if we get this deep understanding of our own nature, of our own being, then we arrive at Atman, which is the source of my body, mind, and individual soul, which is the same as Brahman, which is the source of the entire universe. So Atman is Brahman and Brahman is Brahman, which means the formless being that I am is also the formless being at the heart of creation and is being experienced as the universe. I, the ground of all experience, I, the center of all experience, am experiencing body, mind, and universe. But the body, mind, and universe that I experience is my own self. And of course, because the conditioned mind, which could be referred to as this individual soul, has been conditioned in various ways to think and feel and perceive there are as many universes as there are sentient beings, of which we have access only to the human universe, and what we call the scientific universe is the human universe based on validation of intersubjective experiences using the same methodologies, the same questions, and the same observations based on the same theories. If we get this, that our source is that which is beyond space, time, and causality, that it is individual and it is universal, then we can also come to the realization that we are eternally connected to it, that birth and death are punctuation points, parentheses in the eternal continuum of existence. So this removes all kinds of cravings, all kinds of deep addictions. It removes ego identity and ultimately removes the fear of death and allows us to be connected to the field of infinite possibilities, infinite creativity, and also the field where the power of intention resides, where there is synchronicity, and where truth, goodness, harmony, love, compassion, equanimity, and joy prevail eternally. The realm of Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat, truth; Chit, pure awareness; Ananda, the realm of bliss, which, because it's by very nature is unstable, leads through a process of symmetry breaking to the experience of space-time, energy, information, and matter, and also an individual subject that is experiencing all that. This is liberation in its true sense. Well, that's it for today. This was a very long podcast, but I hope it can be archived somewhere so we can come back to it. Thank you.